Good morning, race fans. Campbell Woods here with a quick little recap from our weekend, this past weekend in Philadelphia at the head of the Schuylkill. Busy weekend for the team, a lot going on, a lot of news. So this time of year, the hits really keep on coming. We were just out of the head of the Charles last week and running straight down the pipe to the Schuylkill this weekend. Super busy week for the athletes, just keeping up with their academics and getting back into the swing of classes after a quick fall break. And we finished up racing the Charles on Sunday and then had a race this Saturday, so not a ton of time off. In addition to that, it was a very challenging week weather-wise. We lost 2 days entirely to the weather, and one that the water was like barely rowable. So we went out, but we didn't get a lot done. So kudos to the rowers this week for kind of rolling with the punches and adapting to a bunch of different things that happen. And I'll run through kind of what happened over the course of the week. But the Schuylkill, this is the second year that we've gone. Extremely well run event. I was very impressed by the organization again. So thank you to the organizers of the head of the Schuylkill. Ran a tight schedule and everything ran very smoothly. Everything was clean. So if you're a coach or a team thinking of going or pondering the comparison between the Schuylkill or the Fish or some of these other events that happen after the Charles, can recommend. Obviously, all these fall races are a little on the expensive side as far as entry fees and things, but we were very pleased with the product that we got on race day, and so that was really good. Marist was entered in 5 different categories with, I want to say it was 14 different entries, 14 or 15 entries, and I'm going to run through all of them here. Our first event of the day was in the early morning. We had 4 different pairs racing. 3 of those pairs were athletes that came out of the varsity 8. And then one of the pairs was the stroke pair from our second varsity. Overall, it was a great race. The water conditions were perfect. It was sun just coming up over the Schuylkill, glass water, maybe a slight breath of a tailwind, relatively warm. And so the athletes had a great run. About the halfway mark of the race, all 4 of the pairs had caught the boat that started in front of them. So it was a fun and exciting race to watch. There were some shenanigans, as you might expect in a pairs race, of steering and trying to make the turns the right way. Obviously, they're all facing backwards. The pairs all have like a toe steering mechanism in them, and it's one thing when you're at home on the Hudson and you're just going straight up and down the big wide body of water on the Hudson. It's a different story when you're on the Schuylkill and you're rowing on a race course through confined lanes, and so I thought the athletes did a good job managing that for the most part. The winner of the event was Penn in a time of 13:08. That was an all-star pair of really top-tier athletes. I know the guys were talking about. One of the guys in that boat was a Henley winner in the pair. Then LaSalle came in second, and in third was our top pair, Tristan Westuba and Matthias Topping. Who are also sitting in the 2-seat and 3-seat of the varsity 8. time of 13:27. Sorry, 13:42 was their time. Only 2 seconds behind them were the 6 seat and 7 seat, 6 seat and 5 seat of the varsity 8. Charlie Latimer and Reed Livingston, time of 13:44. And then about 8 seconds behind them in 7th place was Ian Sondoff and James Hodgendreas, time of 13:52. And in 8th place, Will Shockley and Austin Thomas in a time of 14 flat. There were 16 boats racing in that event. And, as with all things, I think for us, the pairs is an opportunity for the athletes to train in a small boat, learn some small boat and boat handling skills. I think it's fun in the pair not having a coxswain and kind of being in charge of your own destiny. And so for our top athletes, it's a fun and useful training tool. These pairs rode in those pairings, I wouldn't say quite every other day, but probably twice a week over the course of the fall, and kind of developed these lineups. And so that was a fun process, I think, for them to be a part of. And it was cool to see all 4 of them finish in the top half, and and putting one in the medals. And aside of those 2 crews from Penn and LaSalle, Marist beat all of the other collegiate crews that were at the event, so that was cool. The next category was the 4s. Marist had entered a freshman 4, which unfortunately we had to scratch. We had an injury on the team. Nick Scarano, one of our current freshmen, has a hernia injury that's going to require some surgical help, surgical intervention, most likely. So we're disappointed that's going to take him out for a little while. I know he's really frustrated. He's one of our top guys and has been absolutely crushing in the varsity 8. So the whole team is, cheering for him and hoping he'll, get through this and get back to training as soon as he can. But for the time being, he's unfortunately on the sideline. We didn't find out about that injury until the day before the race. So it ended up being something that caused us to filter all of our lineups or change all of our lineups. And unfortunately, when you lose someone out of your varsity 8, it's kind of like dominoes down through the rest of the crew, because someone then has to come up out of the second varsity, someone has to come up out of the third varsity to sit in the 2V, and so on. And so it caused us to reshuffle all the crews that were in the 8s categories, which was frustrating, I think, for everybody, but that's what happens when you're on a big team. And so, also created some opportunities for guys, and I think the crew overall did a good job of adapting to it. The other 4s that we had racing here were in the championship 4 division, and the top crew, the A crew, was our senior 4 with all senior athletes in it. Zach Schwartz, Nolan Libby, Connor Tandy, and Holden Kopsick. They were being coxed by Anthony Proya. That boat, unfortunately, they had a weird incident right at the beginning of the race. Couldn't have been 2 or 3 strokes over the start line. Zach's oar came out of his oar lock, and they had to stop entirely for him to put it back in and get get it set up again, and then start going again. So super frustrating. I was actually up at the start line watching the start, and God, what a frustrating way to start a race and then have to row that whole race, kind of knowing that you lost a whole bunch of momentum and time and speed right out of the gate, having to stop entirely. So frustrating for that crew. They did end up placing 19th overall out of 41 crews, time of 13:37. But I think that crew was showing they were the fastest of these fours that we had in practice, and I think they would have had a much better result if they hadn't had that kind of breakage incident right at the beginning of their race. Our B crew came in 15th, a time of 13:27, so 10 seconds faster. That was a group of sophomores: Jesse Hinkle, Mark Cardruello, Ethan King, and Dante. I'm just going to say Dante K because his last name is difficult to pronounce. And Sam Karen. That crew went 13:27. Had a good race overall. Good smooth racing. And then our C boat in that category was Jack Taddy and Noah Wright and Evan Brown and Julius Stratton. Cox by Joe Wierzemski. And that crew pulled a time of 14:09 and placed 24th. There were 41 crews racing in that category. And the top crew was UPenn, who pulled a ridiculous time of 12:13. So those guys crushed. The next category, before I move on from the fours, I wanted to mention we had an alumni boat joining us over the weekend. Greg Nesteroke, Rick, Rick, I'm going to butcher your name, but it's Rushley, and Jack Boyle and Marty Torrey were coxed by one of our seniors, Matthew Wright, in the Senior Veteran Fours event, which is a 60-plus age category. Our boat was actually an average age of, I'm going to look it up right now, just so I get it correctly, average age of 74. By far the oldest boat in that category. And so huge props to those guys for getting out to row. As many of you will know, Jim Cockcroft, one of our very influential and active alumni, who was a member of that crew from the kind of late 60s, early 70s, passed away earlier this fall pretty suddenly. And so these four guys came together. Around that time, we were christening a boat in Jim's honor. Jim actually knew that about the christening before his passing and was looking forward to joining us, and unfortunately passed away before we got a chance to have him join us and put his name on the shell. But this group of four guys came together and said, you know what, we really need to go and get a row in Jim's boat and honor him in that way. And I really do think it was cool. You know, Jim, one of Jim's special traits as an alum was he loved rowing. And any opportunity that he could get to get back in a boat and get his hands back on an oar with his old classmates or other Marist oarsmen, he would take advantage of. He was very active in encouraging alumni racing and participating in alumni racing over the last 5 or 6 years. And so I really do think it was a very symbolic gesture on the part of these gentlemen for jumping in and getting a race in Jim's boat. I absolutely think Jim would have wanted that, and so props to them for getting out. They did place last in their event, but they had a nice row, and so overall a good day for them, and just a good opportunity to get them together. After the fours raced, we were into the eights. We had 3 eights entered in the club championship eights division, which is essentially the second varsities, where our varsity eight was entered in the championship division. So our A boat in that race was our second varsity eight. Ian Sondoff, Holden Kopsick, Jesse. Oh my God, Jesse, I'm blanking on your name. Jesse, Nolan Libby, Dante, Austin Thomas, Jackson, Bauer, Drew No, and Evie. Evie to cox them. Time of 12:10, and they placed 9th overall. Our B crew, Dane Valenti, Ethan King, Zach Schwartz, Finn Lyons, Matthew Roscoe, Mark Cargiuelo, Connor Tandy, and Julius Stratton, coxed by Liam Ventresca. That was the third varsity eight, time of 12:25. And then our C crew, which has some new faces in it, was Jack Taddy. And just a second, I'm going to pull up so I don't butcher anyone's names here. We had Jack Taddy, Noah Wright, Thomas Superchi, Guy, oh boy, Guy, I'm going to screw up your name, Guy DeViri, Eric Drabinko, Carter Brandel, Evan Brown, and Zeke Wierzinski, coxed by Matthew Wright. So of that group, a whole bunch of them were either novice or walk-on rowers. So Thomas Perchi and Guy DeViri and Eric Drabinko, they are all 3 novice athletes who just learned how to row this fall, and this was their first race. So big congrats to those guys. And also Carter Brandel and Zeke Wierzinski, both rowed in high school, but this was their first race as walk-on athletes here at Marist. So props to those gentlemen as well. That crew placed 41st, time of 13:46. And I just wanted to point out, I wrote down in my notes here some comparisons with last year's crews. So the second varsity eight finished in 13th last year. They moved up to 9th this year. The third varsity eight finished 33rd last year and moved up 16 spots to 17th. So a huge move up the ladder from that crew. And then the fourth eight finished 45th last year and moves up to 41st this year. So overall, everyone moving in the right direction was cool to see. The varsity eight was Will Shockley, Ryan Tuttle, Charlie Latimer, Reed Livingston. Oh my goodness. I have Murray's name right now, and I'm blanking on his first name. Matthias Topping. And Kevin. It's Kevin Murray. I don't know why I would forget that. Kevin Murray, Matthias Topping in 3-seat, Tristan Westuba in 2-seat, and James Hadjandreas in the bow, who moved in to replace Nick Scarano, as previously mentioned. We had Tessa Kursman driving that boat. They posted a time of 11:21 and placed 8th out of 17 crews. Last year's crew placed 18th in this event. So moved up 10 positions on the ladder. And then our final crew of the day, we ran a fun collegiate quad. Jackson Bauer, Matthew Roscoe, Finn Lyons, and Drew No. This was their second race. As you may have noticed, almost everybody raced twice. This was their second race, and they posted a time of 12:55, and they won their race. A lot of fun watching those guys race. The steering was all over the place, and they definitely put some extra distance on the race course, but they raced really hard. And there were only 3 crews in their event. And just the way that it worked out, all 3 crews kind of all were right on top of each other throughout the whole race. So, really cool to see that those guys race. We kind of pulled that boat together at the last minute with 4 guys that we knew how to scull relatively well. And a lot of fun to watch. They got a nice fat trophy for winning their event, and cool to see those guys get it done at the end of the day. So wrapping up, a very busy weekend, a very busy day on Saturday. As described, a lot of the Marist boats moved up in their categories in comparison to where they landed last year. I think at the tip of the spear, the Varsity 8 showed considerable increased speed in comparison to the field that they raced against last year and the performance that we posted last year. If you look at last year's results, that crew was behind a lot of B boats, a lot of second varsities that were in that category. They were over a minute away from crews that we need to beat ultimately in order to move up and qualify for the IRA. And so for sure last year's crew came away from this event kind of thinking, well, we have a long way to go. And we've effectively taken 40 seconds out of everybody in a year, and so I think I think I'm excited about it as the coach, and I think the athletes should be excited as well. We are in a position now where we're very much within striking range of all of these crews. So overall, a very good day, and looking forward to seeing what we can do in the weeks to come. We will be back to racing this weekend at the Princeton Chase down in Princeton, New Jersey. Very cool fall race that we've grown to look forward to every year. I think it's a lot of fun because it's collegiate only. And the leaves are always changing in Princeton, and a lot of the higher end IRA programs are there, and it's just a very cool atmosphere at the event. So looking forward to being there, and just wanted to add an extra thank you to our alumni and our families who came to the Schuylkill. We had a great food tent. The athletes were very well fueled and fed. The weather worked out great, and overall it was a great day. We'll look forward to seeing everybody this weekend in Princeton to wrap up the fall season, and then we'll be off into training mode for the fall. Thanks for everyone for tuning in, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.